Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I'll be doing a movie review of Last Night in Soho, which came out last year. It was actually one of my most anticipated films of last year. However, it did not last in theaters very long, as it was a limited release that did not do all that well, and so, unfortunately, it was not able to stay in theaters as long as I had wished, so that I was actually able to see it. But I was finally able to buy it on physical media and watch it just yesterday. And man, oh man, I have a lot of thoughts about this little gem of a movie. But before going any further into this review, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So Last Night in Soho is the film by Edgar Wright. It is a, as it says here, drama, mystery, thriller, horror film, and I think that all of those really do fit exactly the tone of this movie. There are just so many elements, there's so many layers to this film that it's going to be impossible really to go into the story spoiler free, but I'm going to do the very best that I can, because I think if anyone is going to enjoy this film as much as they can, they should go in as blind as possible. Meaning, if you've seen the trailer, I think you've seen just the right amount of information that you'll need to actually be able to enjoy the story. However, if you've not seen the trailer, I think that might even be better, because you'll be going in completely blind. But this film stars Anya Taylor-Joy and also Thomasin McKenzie. These are two actresses that I've always spoken very highly of. Obviously, Anya Taylor-Joy, I think she is one of the best young actresses working in Hollywood right now. And then Thomasin McKenzie is one of the most underrated actresses working in Hollywood right now. I remember when I first saw her in, really to me, her first big film, which was playing across from Ben Foster in Leave No Trace. If you've never seen that film, highly, highly recommend it. It was from several years ago, so she was still very young. You know, she's still young, but she was very young when she did that role, and she did that role incredibly well. I think most people have probably seen Anya Taylor-Joy at this point, whether it is in, the Queen's Gambit on Netflix, or whether it is, the myriad of other films and products that she's been a part of. So just to know that those two actresses are in this film, they give powerhouse performances. I think, especially going to Thomasin McKenzie, who, of course, is the star of the film. And she truly is a star in so many different ways. The amount of emotions and nuances to her performance are truly breathtaking in so many different ways, because she's able to capture these different elements, right? She plays a very quiet character. She plays a very reserved character, but she also plays a character that is very much in tune with her emotions, to the point of being able to truly feel the pain. I know, River, I know. River is also very impressed by her performance as well as a young actress, but she does an incredible job. Anya Taylor-Joy plays kind of a co-supporting, kind of like a supporting lead role in this film, because she's in the film quite a bit, but she is definitely not the primary character of it. She's kind of a part of this story being told through these flashbacks, through these living out of memories, kind of this mystery of, okay, what exactly is going on in the life? Is she struggling with some kind of mental illness? Is she actually seeing things that are actually going on in the past? That's what you'll have to find out by watching this movie. But as you can see from the summary, it talks about Eloise, played by Thomasin McKenzie, an inspiring fashion designer, mysteriously able to enter the 1960s, where she encounters a dazzling wannabe singer, Sandy, but the glamour is not all that it appears to be, and dreams of the past start to crack and splinter into something far darker. And so there's been a commentary being put out there as far as like the actual meaning behind the film, saying that the past is not always what it's cracked up to be, that even though it might seem at first that the past and looking backwards is something that is something where, we yearn for it, right? I think Midnight in Paris is another film kind of think about how we long for the past, we long for these things that we think are the best time to ever live in history. But then when you really dive down into it, and when you really see the things that were going on at that time, you start to realize, oh man, there was so much crap going on then that really makes and takes away those rose-tinted glasses that we often have. And also, of course, it reminds us that there are still a lot of issues going on even in our own modern day world as well. And so instead of living in the past, we should try to live in the present. So again, this is something that we've seen in films before. However, this one, taking it in the mystery, thriller, horror route, does a very, very good job. Now, as someone who is not much of a horror fan, I'm not a big fan of things like jump scares and monsters and demonic things. Like, this film doesn't have that. It's more so of a thriller. I think that thriller probably is the better thing here, though there are definitely some creepy images going on, and I will definitely give kudos to the visual effects team for being able to take those visual images and bring them to light on a relatively small budget in comparison to some other films. So this film, just again, has a very strong story because of what it's able to convey, the messaging that's able to convey very effectively, and using the thriller, horror genre, mystery to be able to actually play that out. In fact, the mystery part is what is actually, again, the process of the unraveling of the story throughout the film. And you think you know where it's going, you think you know what's going on, you think you figure things out, and just when you do, all of a sudden everything starts to unravel, and you have one of the... Again, it's very rare that I have these types of moments in these types of films, but I had that moment of, oh my goodness, I see where this is going, and this is amazing. You also have a great supporting cast too, kind of staying on the actors for a bit. Matt Smith is in the film, and he plays kind of like a villainous character. In a certain respect, I think Matt Smith plays that part incredibly well. You also have, Terrence Stamp is in the film too, and he's more of a supporting character, but he also does a very good job playing somewhat of a creepy character. As far as the reviews and how this is being viewed by critics and by audiences, not that necessarily matters, but critics, generally favorable, 65 out of 100 still. Again, not the best film for them in the year. I think that this is very underrated in that regard. Users are a little bit more liking of the film, giving it a 7.1, but that's out of 176 reviews. I think that this film is absolutely worth the time to go see. I think the story is incredibly strong. The acting is impeccable, is incredibly strong. Huge shout to Edgar Wright for his very clear direction, very smooth direction. Also, of course, the writing team attached to this as well. I think that they all did a very, very good job. Let me go ahead and see. I think that there was more than one here. Yeah, so the story was by Edgar Wright, screenplay by Christy Wilson Cairns. Let's see. So she also did the screenplay for 1917. So only 2 credits to her name, but both of them, I think, very, very good. I think this story is a lot better than 1917. So I think that there is definitely a lot more to be said for that. However, there is, again, a lot of really awesome stuff going on here. Also, Diana Rigg played the role of Miss Collins in the film, and I think that she also did a very, very good job. She's kind of one of the other supporting characters in the film. As far as any other details about it, again, I got the acting, the visual effects, and I believe that I got all the other major things. Oh, yeah, cinematography. You all know I love cinematography. Love talking about cinematography. I will say the cinematography is definitely more so on the more muted side. By muted, I don't mean necessarily that it's bad or that it's boring. It's just that it's not one of the standouts, at least after my first viewing of it. It wasn't something where I was immediately thought of and caught with, oh man, these shots are so beautiful, and oh my goodness, so it's not that, again, it's bad. I think that it's very competently shot. It doesn't distract away from the film. It adds to the story. It adds to the film. So therefore, by default, that means it's good cinematography. But it's not that kind of cinematography that kind of takes on a life of its own. So there's nothing really spectacular, at least, that I can talk about in the first run. This might be something that I pay attention to a little bit more in a second viewing of the film, which, by the way, I think this film is worth a second viewing for sure, because the story and the acting, I think, are just so engrossing and are just so compelling that it makes you want to keep your focus on the characters and pay attention to the things that are going on in the background. There's a very great use of mirrors, and I think that might be kind of like one of the best parts of the cinematography, is that there is this use of mirrors, right? So you're seeing these different characters in these different mirrors, because there's this question of, okay, is she going back in time? Is this all in her head, right? There's all these questions that are going around as the mystery of the film unfolds. There's also a really, really cool sequence where there's this dancing sequence where the 2 actresses are basically switching back and forth, and watching one of the behind the scenes clips, they actually talk about, Anya Taylor-Joy talks about saying, yeah, that actually was all in camera. That was all practical, meaning that one of them was on screen, the other one was literally running behind the camera, trying to stay out of the view, and then jumping in when it was their turn, and explained it as they were like running around like wild people. And I was like, that just sounds amazing. So I cannot wait to dive into those special features. The ones that I got, at least on the Blu-ray copy, I'm still waiting to be able to digitize my 4K copy of the film. Sometimes it takes a little while before you're able to actually do that, because basically MKV needs to have a file registry or something. So once that happens, I'll be able to see if those special features, like actual behind-the-scenes stuff, is on that disc or not. But that's something that I think would be really funny to actually see. Overall, though, Last Night in Soho, I think, very, very powerful film, very strongly acted, very well written. If I had to say anything as far as negatives of the film, I will say that that there are definitely times where the story can be a little bit more convoluted. You definitely need to pay attention to the story as you go throughout it. And I do think that the runtime is maybe just about right where it needs to be. It's really close to getting to the 2-hour mark. I think that the film probably could have shaved off a couple of minutes and could have been a little bit more tight. I also think that some of the sequences could have been a little bit more clear, not to take away anything from the mystery aspect, but just to make sure that the audience is, has an idea of what is actually going on in any given sequence. I think there were some times where parts of those lines and parts of those transitions were a bit muddled, and it wasn't being muddled necessarily for the story. It was being muddled more so because of, I guess, some discrepancy in the script or just in the way that it panned out in the long run. But I do think that they did a really good job. But again, I think the biggest story, of course, is Thomasin McKenzie giving just a standout rock star performance in this film. Obviously supported very strongly by Anya Taylor-Joy, also by Terrence Stamp, by Matt Smith, and by, again, so many others in this cast. So overall, if I had to give this film a grade, I'm going to give it, after first viewing, I'm going to give this film an A. I think that this is a solid film. It's a film that I want to watch again. It's a film that I think my wife actually would enjoy, as she is not a fan of horror films either, but she is a lot more prone to liking thrillers and mysteries especially. And I will say that the kind of like one thing that pops in the back of my head too is the beginning to me is also a little bit awkward. I think that the entering into the story is a little bit off base. I can see what they were trying to do with the story, trying to kind of like set off the bat saying, hey, there's something very unique about this character. There's something that even other people who know this character personally understand about her. And I think that helps you kind of have a mindset of, as you're going into the film, the things that she's dealing with, the things that she's seeing and where it might be coming from. But I do think that the way that it was handled was a little bit more on the awkward side of things. But that's just my own take. As again, giving it a solid A clearly shows that I'm a big fan of this film. The lighting of this film also incredible. There's so many other things that are popping into my head as I'm speaking. But what are y'all's thoughts? Have you seen Last Night in Soho? I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're a fan of the mystery, thriller, horror genre. More so mystery and thriller. So if you're not as much into the mystery thriller, then this might not be the film for you. And also just be ready to pay attention. It's not one where you have to be focusing every single second on the film itself to know what's going on, but it is definitely one where you need to have your movie watching cap on, as I don't think this film is made for the casual moviegoer, if I had to say so. But what are y'all's thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. You're all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and a shout out, of course, to the two newest Patreon members, Jonathan and Jaimir Ari Hymason. Sorry I was not able to get y'all in the shout outs yesterday. But anyway, you guys are great. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my January Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members. Starting first off with Locals, shout out to Kara Tharp, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Biffer DeHobbit, and Robert Barnes. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Locals platform. Also a shout out to my Subscribe Star people, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson once again, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stan 4, John B, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Subscribe Star platform. And lastly, to my Patreon supporters, my 30 Patreon supporters over there, animation commentator Brandon, let's go Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle, 79, Lance, Laura, the Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Ellen, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Benden, and Tina Bojan, and of course, Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you all so very much for your love and for your support. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream, And at the end of every video, please make sure that you support me over on Patreon, Subscribestar, or on Locals. Also, you get a ton of other goodies if you support at the Army of Asgard level and above. Starting at the Army of Asgard level, you get access to various giveaways that I do during the month, including various 4K titles. Many of them 4K Steelbook titles, and so if you want access to that, check out the Army of Asgard level on those platforms specifically. You also get access, once you are a Keeper of the Bifrost level member, to that, plus a podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where you actually get to ask us questions, and also, of course, get access to that and the library of previous podcast episodes. We're up to about 33 episodes now that we have been able to do. I think most of those episodes now at this point, we've actually done it together, which has been a lot of fun. And of course, you can join at the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, Chosen of Valhalla live stream level, where you get access to not only all of those things, but also you get access to be featured on the channel once a month during the Chosen of Valhalla live stream with the other Chosen members, which is always a lot of fun. Also, during your first month, you get a free t-shirt sent anywhere in the world. You just let me know your size. Let me know the t-shirt that you want from the store over on Teespring or on TeePublic, whichever you prefer, and I will gladly send that out to you if you're at that level. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.